So far we've covered just playing in the key of G. John Hardy did start with the C chord, but it's also in the key of G, which uses the G, C, and D chords. Now if you look at page, I believe it's 150 in your book, there we go into backup in any key. And a lot of people think this is really difficult, but once you kind of know the little tricks that solve the mystery, it's pretty easy. To say if you're playing with a band or in a jam session and somebody hollers at you, well, this is in the key of, well, let's start with G. I'm going to show you the pattern first. This is in the key of G, and you say, oh my gosh, I don't know what the chords are. Well, go to the F position of the G chord at the 5th fret here, and that will be your 1 chord, your home chord. You only have 3 main chords in every song. Your 2nd chord is called the 4 chord, and I'll explain that in a minute, but your 4 chord is located in the bar position right across where your ring and pinky are. That's the other chord. And the 3rd chord, you back up 1 fret, switch to the D position. So you can relate this to the key of G. That's G, C, D, G. Now if you'll just follow me up to the key of C, if someone says, okay, this song is in the key of C, you can play this little progression to find it. You go to the root position or the F position of the C chord. That's the 1 chord. That's another chord. That's the 3rd chord in the D position and back. Now you can do that all over your fingerboard. You can go to the D chord, just move up a little bit. D in the F position, D, G, A, D. And then you can play your roll patterns and use the licks and so forth for those chords. And as you start playing in other keys more often, you find it's pretty simple. The 5th string really can drone on through, or you can retune it to a chord tone that matches the home chord when you're playing in other keys. But it's really pretty simple. Now to figure out the names of these chords, if you want to figure them out, which isn't a bad idea for knowing where the rest of the positions for these are, say we're in the key of D. Well, you can count up your right hand fingers. The 1 chord is D. Okay, so that's your first finger, your thumb, and that will be in the one that you played in the F position. The 2nd chord is the 4th chord up the alphabet, so you go D, E, F, G, and that's the one that happens right there with the bar. The 3rd chord we're talking about when we back up and go into the D position is the 5th chord. Now you've probably heard of people talk about 1, 4, and 5 chords. So in the key of D, we'd have D, E, F, G, and A. Those would be the main chords that would be played in the key of D. D, G, A, D. Now we go back into the key of G, check me out. G's the 1 chord, count up your fingers, G, then musical alphabet starts over with A after G, so it's G, A, B, C is your 4 chord, D is your 5 chord, G, C, and D. Let's go to the key of C. Okay, C is your 1 chord, count up your fingers, D, E, F is your 4 chord, G is your 5 chord, C, F, and G. So that's how you play in other keys, and then like I say, you can retune your 5th string. But we're going to run out of time on the video, so I'm not going to be able to play through a lot of different songs in different keys. But if you'll keep that in mind, and keep in mind that most of the backup licks that you've learned and that you play are movable, so you can still play the same licks. You just, instead of playing them for a G chord, you play them for an F chord or for whatever key chords are in that specific key. Now just to demonstrate a little bit on playing in other keys, I'm going to play through the last break for the Banks of the Ohio on page 160 of your book. It's in the key of C, and when you're in the key of C, you can use the same deep tone C chord licks for the C chord and G chord licks for the G chord. So it overlaps with the key of G. The only different chord is the F chord. The F chord is a closed position chord, so you can use all those licks up and down the fingerboard in the closed position or just a roll for the F chord. So I thought I'd just play through this without a band or anything, and this is not on the audio tape, but just to give you an idea of how these licks are all pasted together and combined for the key of C. Now you can play along with me.